Two here on College Football Addiction. Some breaking news. Tom is back. What a day. How you guys doing?
I'm alive. I am under the weather, but had a hell of a weekend with TNA Wrestling, literally our largest event on North American soil in company history, 23 years of history this past weekend at Bound for Glory. And also, James Franklin got fired, so my entire world has been turned upside down covering Penn State football in the past handful of days. So, TJ, I'm glad you and I got to connect on the phone. I appreciate you doing that, man. So glad we got to talk about it. Yeah, I got some tweets and some like comments on our YouTube section on my podcast, State of State, shameless plug, and people saying, "Well, this guy doesn't know who the candidate list is," and it's like, and somebody else responding is like, "Only one person does, by the way, and that's Pat Kraft, the athletic director. No one else actually knows what the list is, and this happened days ago. So like, this is it's amazing the names that get thrown out there by." National media pundits and fans and social media idiots and all that stuff. So we're in a fun time. Okay, so we were just about to say that off air. That idiot Greg McElroy on SportsCenter. I think Pat Fitzgerald will be great, who got ousted from Northwestern because of some shady stuff. And granted, I think that got settled out of court, and he was he found innocent in the entire situation? Right. Mm-hmm. No allegations. Please and thank you.
Before we get into the real show, or things that we had planned today, man, it really feels like Napier will coach his last game on Saturday at Florida. Cole, I don't know if you have any quick thoughts there, and then we'll talk about it going forward. But okay, so I understand waiting for the bye week because then the coach has the interim, whoever that will be, maybe Ron Roberts, will have 2 weeks to install stuff before Georgia. But like, man, if that's the case, like, why to me, it's almost like a disservice to the players. Like, just do it after the Texas A&M game, which I understand that's not the bye week, but like the players all know that he's getting canned in this game. And so I don't know, it creates a weird situation there. And again, it creates a weirder situation when they go out and win by 20 plus and Legway throws 5 touchdowns or whatever. But like, I don't know. I just don't know why you wouldn't just do it last week. Somebody asked, just quickly, Paul's in here every week. So shout out Paul, shout out Hunter, and those that are joining and will join later. Appreciate you guys that are here every week. Tough question. How do you justify the potential hiring of Matt Rule, being these from the Joe Paterno tree, as a player and coach?
Justify it. I think one thing that's bothered Penn State football fans, the community, the university, is that James Franklin has largely ignored the existence of Joe Paterno since he was hired. And it's the elephant in the room that a lot of time has passed. No one is saying that what happened with the Sandusky scandal was acceptable in any way, shape, or form. I want to make that very clear. And Joe Paterno's part in that is very well understood. But it's assuming that this whole part of Penn State football's history just never occurred. So as a result, thinking about anybody that had anything ever to do with Joe Paterno is persona non grata and should never be considered and should never be talked to or any of that stuff. Like, James Franklin did a bad job at dealing with previous lettermen that weren't under his time at Penn State. That is something that is part of the healing process, and that's something Penn State is still very much dealing with. I don't think Matt Rule's connection to Joe Paterno is a negative in this situation. I think ultimately what people are looking at is his performance and his production. And he has 0 wins against the AP Top 25. And that bothers people. And it scares the hell out of people because it's eerily similar to what James Franklin has done. Not the exact same against the top 25, but real bad against the top 10. Same thing with Matt Rule. That being said, Pat Kraft has a lengthy personal relationship with Matt Rule that you have to consider. Matt Rule is an alum of Penn State University. He met his wife there. Like, there's all these connections. But personally, I don't think Matt Rule is the answer. And a lot of these names that are being thrown out there, I think people are just throwing them out there because they have some sort of connection to the university or they happen to have stepped foot in the state of Pennsylvania. And TJ, you're a perfect person to talk to about this. How many people have been talking about for years, well, when's Deion Sanders going to go to Florida State because he played there? Often, just because you attended a university, worked there, played there, doesn't mean it's a good idea for you to go coach there. Go see Scott Frost. It doesn't always work out because the expectations are already extremely high at Penn State. If the goal is to win a national championship, add them even higher if you're supposed to be the quote unquote prodigal son. Do you really want that?
Yeah, I think it makes it tough to, you mentioned Deion, like there's some stuff that he has done that has rubbed people the wrong way. He's also very much about himself, just personally. I don't think that surprises anybody. No, I'm not saying he hasn't done stuff for like Travis Hunter and his kids, and what he's doing now is great. But like, I think that the way that he's been for the last 30 years has just been very about himself. And I think that's rubbed a lot of people at Florida State wrong. He comes around and he does stuff around Florida State when it's convenient for him, when his name is being floated in a coaching search, when things like that are part of the expectation or part of, what it can do for him. So, and then you add in not only that, but also like how awkward it makes it when you do have to part with, like, every coach gets fired, right? Or they leave for another job. But like, eventually you're going to have, unless they turn into, Nick or Kirby or whatever, like every coach gets fired. And so when you end up having to do that, having to do it to a former legend and alum is always awkward. So yeah, I mean, I think, and then you add in, any kind of controversy, which there's really not been that with Deion in Florida State, but you add that in with the Penn State side, and I think it makes it tougher. So good question, Tom. Cole, can we, Paul, sorry. Cole, they say they can see you now. Let's do a mic check.
There you go. Can you hear me? That's the main question. Paul, Hunter, anybody else in the comments section. Here's my thing, and I won't spend a lot of time on this because I don't want to go into too much detail when we have 6 games that we have to preview. If you're going to swing and get rid of James Franklin, swing big. Like, that's the entire premise, isn't it? Like, you're supposed to get better than the coach that constantly got you to 10-2, would have been in 8 college football playoff appearances throughout his tenure. Like to me, that's where we're at when it comes to, if you want to move off of somebody, you better get bigger. And as a college football fan, I understand the renaissance of bringing back a coach that has ties to the program. As a Penn State fan, I'm not waking up feeling so juiced that Matt Rule is coming in to replace James Franklin. That's just my 2 cents on it. And maybe I'm wrong. There were a lot of people out there that were very much upset that Joey McGuire was the head coach at Texas Tech. Look at what he's able to accomplish. Look at what we're seeing from Mike Elko. There was a very big understanding from the national media. It's a safe hire. Sometimes it ends up coming back to bite you in the ass, and from your narrative standpoint, I just don't know if this is the one that I would go after. Like, I get the Cignetti love, and I understand that he loves Bloomington, but everyone has a price. I understand that you don't want to go after Clark Lee because you can't replace a former Vanderbilt coach with the current Vanderbilt coach. Like, I get those things, but it just feels like there's a ceiling when it comes to Matt Rule. And if I'm a program that wants to get to that next level, I got to see more against quality top 10 teams or even top 15 teams this season, where it's not on the schedule, to believe that we're seeing the change in state college that we're asking for.
Let's go to Tuscaloosa for a bit. Cole, a big one in the SEC this week. I don't know why I say that. There's like 6 big ones in the SEC every week, but I said it anyway. Tennessee going into Tuscaloosa to try and get a win to keep hope alive for the maybe SEC championship and college football playoff.
No, this is a very big game. And I think more specifically, this is a game that has college football playoff implications. But from a ambiance standpoint, it's a night game in Tuscaloosa with 2 teams ranked to the top 15. Like, that doesn't happen in the third Saturday in October, which is one of the best rivalries in college football. And what's so funny is Alabama fans, a lot of them will say they dislike Auburn. They know Auburn's their little bitch. They know they don't really care about them. Their little brother syndrome. They don't like Georgia. They're not a big fan of LSU and what those Bayou Bengals bring. They love Tennessee. They absolutely hate Tennessee. And the feeling is mutual from the folks out in Knoxville. They do not like it. This is good old-fashioned pure disdain and hatred. And honestly, that's what makes college football circle the world around. For Alabama's standpoint, for my money, Alabama's just got to play its game. Alabama's got to do what it's done over the last 5 weeks and constantly put themselves in this position. And that's win through the year. And this is a top 15 scoring offense. It's a top 5 passing offense. It's top 5 passing offense going up against a bottom 30 pass defense who has allowed far too many explosive plays. And they did so last week against Arkansas. They did so against Mississippi State. And then you got to remember, well, look at Alabama's receiving core. And that's excluding Ryan Williams, who is not at 100% right now and may not get back to 100% this season. So Ty Simpson, being the surgical wizard cyborg that he is, just needs to be able to find the open creases and avenues at an early start and give Alabama the opportunity to strike within the red zone. What's going to be interesting about this game is that we don't know the status of Jam Miller. He left in the fourth quarter. He left in the third quarter against Missouri. Concussion protocol, did not come back in. They had to rely on Daniel Hill and A.K. Deere. And the rushing attack was the underwhelming part of Alabama's offense before the Georgia game when they welcomed back in Jam Miller. So if that becomes an issue, Ryan Grubb is going to throw the football. I mean, is going to run the football. He has to as an offense coordinator to set up the pass. He's got to run the football. But can you find some explosive plays with your other running backs, whether it be Young, Hill, Deere, for a gain of 4, gain of 5, gain of 7, gain of 8, and not be in a gain of 2, gain of 1, where it becomes a situation where you have to pass the football. And as much love as we're giving to Ty Simpson here, I do want to credit this. It's a big game for Ty. It's an also massive game for Joey Aguilar. Yeah. Aguilar is not getting the respect that he deserves. And discredit to me on SEC Unfiltered for not doing this. So I'll do it here. If he ends up having a great game and he ends up taking his advantages against Alabama's secondary, a good but not great Alabama secondary, a solid but not elite Alabama secondary, he's right back in the Heisman Trophy conversation. So we can talk all about what we're seeing from the guy out in Tuscaloosa, but we also got to talk about the guy, what we're seeing out in Knoxville. Because if he's built a great rapport with Chris Brazzell, Mike Matthews, Miles Kitzelman, Braylon Staley, and all of them are going to have to be efficient, they also have a bit of a ground game I think you can trust more because they have 3 running backs that all have found opportunities to strike. Now, one of them is probably not going to play in this game. Deshaun Bishop left in the third quarter against Arkansas, dealing with a lower body injury, not supposed to be season ending, but may not be available for Saturday showcase out in Bryant Day Stadium. So they're going to have to create their opportunities through the ground. I think if they can, but that's going to start off with explosive plays, 20-plus yards downfield. Alabama secondary, the one thing that they've been very good at this year is eliminating the explosive plays downfield. They are actually one of the better defenses in college football when it comes to eliminating 20-plus yard plays. And the problem is that Tennessee ranks in the bottom half of the league when it comes to explosive plays allowed defensively. So again, it's a mismatch in that standpoint. Tennessee, though, is going to have to do one thing defensively that they've done so far all season, and that's create opportunities for chaos. I mean, if you wanted me to tell you what is going to be the storyline of this game, I think the sack numbers against Ty Simpson will tell you if Tennessee even stood a shot. Because Tennessee enters this matchup leading not only the SEC, but college football in sacks. They're number 2 in pressure rate. They have good depth in the defensive line that can get after quarterbacks and put them on their back. Joshua Josephs had that big scoop and score against Mississippi State. And you need to be able to have that type of opportunity. They're number 2 in takeaways in college football, so they do a good job of winning their one-on-one battles, especially in coverage downfield. Colton Hood, whoever he lines up against, he is going to have to play blanketed coverage and hopefully force Ty Simpson to throw in his direction. And if all those things happen, there's an opportunity, especially if you have short field position, for Joey Aguilar to kind of strike. What I wonder about is going to be, can we see at any point Alabama jump up to an early lead? And can they give the crushing blow to Tennessee? Or Tennessee get up to an early lead, let's say it's 14-0 going into the second quarter, and you just need that big strike down the field. And Braylon Staley is wide open against Damani Jackson, and you overthrew him. Was that the moment to where the game could have been put to bed? You easily kind of coast your way towards a victory. It's a signature win for Josh Heupel. Or is that the moment where now Alabama starts to gain momentum? Because the thing that happened to Tennessee, they were 21-7 at home against Georgia. They needed to get that knockout punch, be up by 3 scores. It didn't happen. They punted. Georgia came back, became 21-14. Then it became Georgia's game. Then Tennessee had to fight its way back. And then it went all the way down to the wire, but there became momentum in favor of the Bulldogs. That's something that's going to be really, really important in this matchup. But Tennessee's defense, they're good enough, I think, to hold their own against Alabama. Tennessee's offense, they have multifaceted pieces that can easily work in their favor. This is going to be a very, very enticing game, I think, for 3.5 quarters. That fourth quarter, whoever is feeling more of the consistency, and it's really going to come down to the quarterbacks, but who's ever in their element, got a little bit more of that spark. That's the one that I think comes away with the win at the end of the day.
It feels like Tennessee really... the path to this win for Alabama is exactly what you just said. They just need to take care of the ball and do what they do, right? They just need to be efficient, not try to do too much, play with them themselves, and they'll be fine. You know, I think back to that opening week, and I think one of the most underrated things that gets kind of missed in that loss was how many drops they had.
Yeah.
And man, they came at critical times. And for me, sitting in the stadium on the other side, that was great. You know, that was awesome for where I was sitting. A lot of those came on third downs. A lot of those came on second and longs. A lot of those came on situations where I don't want to say that if you gave them all those drops back that Florida State wouldn't have still won, but I do think they changed the game in a big way. And if Alabama can avoid those things, and they've had explosives, I'm not saying that they're just a dink and dunk team only, but they have just been so content with just taking what's in front of them, taking what the defense gives them and rolling. And they are the picture of methodical since really that Florida State game. And they really were in that Florida State game too. They weren't dropping 80-yard bombs. They were dropping crossing routes that would have gone for 13 yards on 3rd and 5. And so to me, it feels like Alabama just needs to do the simple things. But Tennessee's path to victory very much is they need to hit on some of those explosives. I don't feel like they can consistently just drive on Bama. They need to replicate what they did against Georgia early and get a lead like that. And so when I'm thinking of, okay, well, how often does Alabama just kind of taking what the defense gives them, how often does that happen over 10 games? And how often does Tennessee hitting the explosive plays happen over 10 games? It happens less to hit the big play consistently over and over and over again on the road in Bryant-Denny. And so that seems pretty uphill. However, the possibility of them hitting some of those big plays or Alabama kind of reverting a little bit in a very tough stretch. We've talked about how they have, Vandy, Missouri, Georgia, Vandy, Missouri, Tennessee now, and it continues to go tough. I don't remember who their next one is. Is it Oklahoma and then South Carolina and then LSU after the bye week? I mean, that's a tough stretch. But when I look at that, it just feels like too much of a mountain to climb for Tennessee in this one, unless they can kind of do what maybe is unexpected.
No, I mean, you aren't wrong. The thing that I still wonder about when it comes to Alabama is what is their run defense going to be like? And that's an area where, again, it can lean in favor of Tennessee because they have 3 running backs. Right now, 2 are going to play. Maybe a third will with Deshaun Bishop. But Alabama did a good job of shutting down Ahmad Hardy. Did a good job of shutting down Jamal Roberts last week. So massive win in that standpoint. They forced Bo Pabula to have to utilize his legs, but Joey Aguilar can use his legs at times. So how is that going to be a factor that does set up a couple of big-time shots downfield for those passing plays from Tennessee? The other thing is that Tennessee is one of the most high-tempo offenses in college football. They run more plays in a minute than anybody else in the sport. So can you catch Alabama's defense slipping at the right time, especially when it comes to maybe a position change, maybe when it comes to making that just assignments? Those are going to be things to where if you are Josh Heupel, you need to take those advantages to put yourself in a position where you can win over the top, and that is just off to the races. If you're Kane Womack, though, the thing that you want to do is do as much as possible to slow down the up-tempo by making the substitutions at the right time and force them to be slow to the ball. That way it gives your defense time to kind of counteract and see what Tennessee's actually doing. In my humble opinion, the biggest thing is that this is a night game at Alabama against Tennessee, a team that has not won in Tuscaloosa at night in over 20 years. And it just feels like right now, as much as I would love to see Tennessee go on a run and be this college football playoff threat, which they still can because of what their schedule says, Oklahoma, Florida, Vanderbilt, you still got a game against, you still got a couple more games on your disposal, Kentucky for that matter. 10-2 is not dead entirely. It's Alabama. It's a night game. It's the third Saturday in October, and you haven't won there in over two decades. I don't see that changing right now. The spread is set at like 8.5. I dangerously, it feels wrong to say, but I think Alabama wins and covers. I think it's going to be something along the lines of 38-24 final score.
I'm looking at this. We'll take Alabama 34-28. So that's Tennessee to cover. I think, according at least on ESPN, it's 7.5 right now in favor of Alabama with an over/under of 58.5. So give me the over. I think it's a backdoor cover by Tennessee in this game. I just don't trust Tennessee's ability to finish. That Georgia game was the example to point towards. The rest of their competition has not been at the level that Georgia put up that day in Knoxville. I think Alabama is going to be on a similar platform, if not better. But to all the points you guys were just saying, this has not been an Alabama team that has just been hanging 60 on people every single year. They've had a lot of close games, but it's been very methodical. So I think this is something where the Tide just does their thing. They know exactly who they are. They need to play smart football because there's that high variance issue with Joey Aguilar in the offense. They can hit the explosives, but they don't have that ability, as Cole said, to chain together offensive long drives consistently throughout games. So they would have to prove that in this game. I think there is the possibility of an upset here. Don't get me wrong. You would need a lot to go wrong. You need Alabama to mess up and hand you a few. That's just not what this Alabama team looks like so far this year.
I would agree. And one thing, and sorry, TJ, for cutting you off, but you need Alabama to give you some things while playing perfect for you to win this football game.
Yeah, no, I'm in complete agreement. It feels like a tall task. I'll go 31-21. Cole, is that pretty close to yours? Did I just steal your score?
Yeah, I had 38. I had 38-24.
Yeah, 31-21, competitive for a half, and then Alabama pulls away.
Yeah,
I like upsets. It no longer behooves me to cheer for Alabama because Florida State season doesn't matter anymore. So I'd like to see Tennessee make this a great game and even pull off a road upset, but I just don't see it. I don't see that happening. So anyway, on to the Big 12. Texas Tech and Arizona State. I'll just lob this up. Does Arizona State have any chance? Whoever wants to take it, go for it.
They could. I mean, Sam Levitt's back at practice, so that's a big time step in the right direction over Jeff Sims. Last week's game, though, against Utah was a pretty big wake-up call that if you do not have Sam Levitt out there, it's going to be a long season out in Tempe. And that doesn't mean that Kenny Dillingham should be facing any pressure, that we should be doubting him as a head coach and who he is. He's still a damn good head coach. And in fact, for my money, the buy-in that you have from the alumni, because he is an alum, is probably going to be why we see Arizona State compete for multiple Big 12 titles in his tenure. But Jeff Sims is not a good backup plan. I mean, I thought at the very beginning of the year, having a veteran guy that can come on in for a game or two would be beneficial. It's more than just that. Defensively, they were massacred by Utah at times. Offensively, they couldn't get anything rolling in moments. So Sam Levitt's going to be the key in this game. Does he play? On the flip side, we do have to talk about Baron Morton. He's day-to-day right now. He may not play. The problem is that you trust what you got in your backup quarterback in Will Hammond because of now it's twice that he's come on in and twice he has yet to fail to meet the expectations. That's more so where we are when it comes to the backup quarterback conversation.
For me, just the more I watch this Texas Tech team, the more I'm impressed. I am very curious to see what they're going to look like outside of Big 12 play once they make the college football playoff. I think we're seeing them do extremely well right now and put up incredible numbers on both sides of the ball, but it's Big 12 ball. Let's be honest with ourselves. This is a very well-rounded Texas Tech team. They're giving up 67 rushing yards per game. Arizona State is rushing for about 200 yards per game. Something has to give on that front. And to the points that Cole just said, getting Sam Levitt back, definitely a boost, but you're going to want to have that running game to support a quarterback whose health has been iffy and a problem this year. I don't like the matchup for Arizona State. Being at home, I could see this being close in the first half. So if you're going to be a sicko and bet first half or first quarter overs and unders, this could be your time to shine. But this is a Texas Tech team that's scored minimum 34 points this season. I don't like Arizona getting into a track meet with Texas Tech, and especially Texas Tech's defense is only allowing 12 points per game. Like we've harped on it so much. This is not the Texas Tech people got used to growing up. Baron Morton is a very well-rounded quarterback. Dickey and Williams are an outstanding running back tandem. This offensive line is very talented. The pass catchers are doing exactly what's being asked of them. And then defensively, I love the pass rush. I love the way they get after the football. They tackle extremely well. This is a damn good team. What they're going to look like outside the Big 12, I have no idea. But this situation for Arizona State, you don't want to get into a track meet with Texas Tech, and I just don't think they can score enough points.
I think what's really interesting is that we spend so much time talking about Texas Tech's offense, and we should, but it's their defense that, in my opinion, is the better unit right now. And maybe it's because of the quality of competition of offensive personnel in the Big 12. But, I mean, tell me this. Do you guys know where Texas Tech ranks in scoring defense nationally? They're 6th.
I was going to say, I thought it was top 4, but
they moved down after the last week against Kansas. You know where they rank in total yards per game? 9th. That's better than teams like Texas, BYU, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Utah. They're number 10 in third down opponents' conversion rate. They're only allowing 27.7%. And here's the thing about Arizona State that drives me crazy. I think Arizona State should be a much more balanced offense, even though you do have a mobile quarterback in Sam Levitt, even though you do got guys like Raleek Brown and Kanye Udo and Kyson Brown in your backfield, and they all can run. Can anybody tell me how many receptions and receiving yards the number 2 Arizona State pass catcher has? It's 21, and it's Raleek Brown out of the backfield with 124 receiving yards. And then Shamoy Mateer, who is number 2 in receiving yards, has 160. The offense runs through one person, Jordan Tyson, 47 catches, 523 yards this season. If you want to win a football game against Arizona State and not make it a shootout, triple team Agent Zero, just literally the entire game. And if you have that execution done, it's almost impossible to beat. Like that's where we are when it comes to this. I will say, even up to this point, Texas Tech is going to lose a football game. I just do not see a scenario where they go unscathed. I don't know where that is. Is it here in Tempe at 3:00 on Saturday afternoon?
I don't think so. Give me 38-21, Texas Tech. I'll say Arizona State scores a little bit more than most teams have, but I don't have enough confidence in them making this super close. I love Kenny. I'd love to see it, but I don't think so.
I was thinking 38-20. So right in the same wheelhouse there. I like this for Texas Tech. Just not right for Arizona State.
I'll be a little bit more nicer to Arizona State's defense and a little bit more crude to Arizona State's offense. I got 34-17.
All right, Tom.
Oof.
Let's have some fun with this one, buddy.
Yeah, man. No problem. I mean, who cares at this point? I mean, you always care. You want to win games, but like,
there will be much better games to watch this weekend. The storylines going into this weekend for Penn State versus Iowa are tremendous. So it will get a lot of attention because the big question is, what does Penn State look like after James Franklin and after Drew Aller? Terry Smith, the interim head coach, spoke a lot earlier on this week talking about restoring the toughness, the grit, and the passion with which the team plays. The question was asked, well, where did that go? How did that go away? Why did that go away? No real specific answers were given, but vague answers surrounding NIL and money were certainly brought up. And it's alarming for Penn State football fans to know that the nucleus from last season that people felt so confident in, that Penn State was the preseason number 1 or number 2, depending on where you looked, that returning production had to be paid to come back. And then when everything didn't go their way against Oregon, and you narrowly lost to one of the better teams in the country, that everything just disintegrated virtually overnight against UCLA and against Northwestern, will firing James Franklin, ironically, be the thing that galvanizes this team? We've seen it before. We've seen how coaches getting fired can inspire teams to play for their departed head coach. Terry Smith was already the associate head coach for Penn State football. And based on everything I understand about this program, there is nobody else that they would have picked to lead this. And this is not just a look around the room and Mike, it's you. All right. Terry Smith is very much equipped to handle this, but the real X's and O's of the situation going into this, Kirk Ferentz and Iowa have been playing much better than people expected this year. It took Mark Gronowski, a quarterback, a number of starts to get acclimated to major Division I college football and Big Ten football. Iowa has proved they can put some points on people. It's not the exact same Iowa you've seen for years where it's just run the football to death and pray that you score 20 points. They hung 38 on Rutgers a number of weeks ago. And for those people that want to say, well, Penn State isn't Rutgers, Penn State gave up 42 2 weeks ago to UCLA. They lost 22-21 at home to Northwestern. You have no idea which version of Penn State you're getting this weekend. Penn State has struggled against the interior run game mightily over the last 3 weeks. The lack of depth and talent at defensive line, the lack of depth and talent at linebacker is astonishing for a Penn State football team. The secondary, also much heralded going into this season, has struggled this year. I don't think this is an Iowa team that is going to be able to take the top off of Penn State, but it's going to be much more conventional Iowa football, which can be effective against this Penn State team. Play action pass, run the football extremely well up the middle, take what the defense gives you. And oh, by the way, a mobile quarterback that if you put 10 hats on 11, they can hurt Penn State. That's been proven for 3 consecutive weeks. So I'm curious if when we get to sleeper, we can pick the more for rushing yards for Mark Gronowski, because I will probably do that. At the same time, for Penn State offensively, going up against Iowa's defense, there will be points that you can get against this team. Again, this doesn't strike me as an Iowa defense that is just going to be like, hey, we'll give up 17 and pray. This is a good defense, but you still are going to have your opportunities. The huge question is, will this quarterback, Ethan Grunkemeyer, an underclassman who has never started a game at Penn State, be able to handle the 4 scariest words in Big Ten football at Kinnick at night? This is a very hostile crowd that historically hates Penn State football, and they are not pleasant people to be around when those games happen. Ethan Grunkemeyer and Terry Smith handling their first games at the helm, respectively, in their roles at Iowa is a very difficult process. And the last thing I think many of the people in the Lash building at Penn State are thinking about is playing a football game this weekend. I sincerely hope, as someone who attended Penn State, covers a team, that James Franklin's firing galvanizes this team, because there's a lot of guys hurt in that locker room, believe that they are responsible for getting their coach fired. They feel guilty. So do they step it up? Penn State in the trenches, both the offensive line and the defensive line, it has been very inconsistent and poor this season. Unless they change overnight, I don't expect that identity to change all that much. I don't know where this necessarily falls in terms of the score. I'm going to hear what you guys have to say on this and give it a second here to think about it. But this is a tough situation, and it's a really, really complicated situation because you just don't know which version of Penn State you're getting. Ethan Grunkemeyer, the scouting report on him before Drew Aller went down was that he's kind of a hybrid between Drew Aller's arm talent, and Bo Perbula's ability to run. In the limited amount that we've seen of Ethan Grunkemeyer, he's thrown interceptions often, and he hasn't done all that much that's really inspiring. It's too small of a sample size to really claim exactly what he is, but there's nothing he's put on tape that you're like, we're going to be fine. Does his skill set fit Andy Kodolnicki's offense better than Drew Aller's? However, there is the possibility the answer to that question is yes, because of what he can do with his legs. If Penn State leans that direction, do they have more explosivity and pop in the offense? We'll see.
I just got to ask you from the standpoint of Iowa's defense. It's top 10 in almost every single category -1, and that's pass defense. Do you trust Grunkemeyer to be able to build a repetition with any of these wide receivers, his tight ends, even Katron Allen and Nick Singleton out of the backfield, to where you're at least able to convert on third down and keep drives alive and win the time possession battle?
I think the first thing that has to happen if you're Andy Kotelnicki game planning this is a brand new revitalized dedication to Katron Allen. We saw that against Northwestern, and there was improvement. Ethan Grunkemeyer, one thing that you can point towards, all right, he's a number 2. Is he working with the primary pass catchers? Is he working with the second tier? And that's been something a lot of Penn State fans have been calling for, is to see guys that there was buzz about during the offseason, like Kobe Howard, like Tyser Denmark, guys who did not get involved in the Northwestern game for some reason. The next wide receiver Penn State went to after the 3 transfers was Liam freaking Clifford. So the answers that Andy Kotelnicki has attempted to throw out there have not done the job. So Ethan Grunkemeyer, while it'll be new, there's not really any tendencies of his to work off of. I think Penn State's going to have its opportunities early. They're going to have better athletes than what Iowa was able to field in terms of the weapons on offense versus what Iowa was putting out there defensively. But this is still Kirk Ferentz. This is still a really smart, disciplined, gritty defense they're going to put out there every single week. So I don't think there's going to be any gimmies, but there will be opportunities in the passing game. It's a huge question mark of, is Ethan Grunkemeyer developed enough to the point to be calm under pressure in a hostile environment, make his reads, and make the right throws?
I wonder if there's any chance that Penn State can do kind of what UCLA did after firing their coach and kind of give an inspired effort. I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith that they will, though, especially with the if Aller was there, maybe you'd have. I understand like the idea of like maybe the backup plays a little bit better than the starter in the offense, but man, it's a lot to ask going into Iowa and doing that. I'll take Iowa in a low scoring 24-21 win.
I believe.
Go ahead, Cole.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead, Tom.
I was about to honestly say 24-20 Iowa.
How dare all of you? I will believe in Penn State to get the job done in a 15-12 game. Field goals galore. We'll win the football game.
I hope it's not just. I'd be fine with 9 field goals, but I hope there's like a safety, a mixed extra point, 2-point convert. I hope there's weird stuff that gets us to that score.
Let's get back to 2007, a 3-2 finish. Let's do that. Come on.
6-4. 6-4. Yeah.
You remember when, what was the game? It's Virginia Tech and somebody else because the picture is Beamer. It's either Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech or Virginia Tech, Boston. I think it was Georgia Tech. Wake Forest. Yeah. 0-0 at the end of the regulation period. And then I think they both scored a couple of times in overtime. It made it look kind of normal, but I don't know. We'll see. All right. So the one Tom mentioned is not on Sleeper right now, but we will go through some Sleeper picks right now and see if we can make you guys some money. If you haven't used the Sleeper app yet, you get a free $20 entry if you go and use our code CFA. You also get a 100% match up to $100. Carson Beck, more or less passing touchdowns against Louisville. 1.5 is the number. The juice is significantly on the side of Moore, and I will ride that way. I think he gets at least 2 passing touchdowns against Louisville.
I agree. Give me more. It just doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility. 2 doesn't really strike me as something that's unachievable for him.
If it was 2.5, I would take less, but it's 1.5. I will take more.
Miles Kitselman, we just mentioned this one. Tennessee, Alabama, 22.5 receiving yards, more or less. Cole, SEC, you can go first.
I'll go more. I think that you're going to have to see a lot of the dink and dunk passes early on in the game, and that'll get him a lot of yards after contact where he wins in the open field.
Repeat it back to me, TJ.
Miles Kitselman, tight end for Tennessee, 22.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, give me more. Why not? Yeah, Tennessee has the ability to just hit explosives with a variety of different guys. Like, he could get that on one play.
I will go more as well. Yeah, I'll make it a clean sweep on the first 2. Life's too short to bet less unless you really feel good about it. And so, 2 catches, and he's probably there. Dylan Raiola, 1.5 passing touchdowns at Minnesota, more or less.
I'm going to say less. I could see it going either way, but just I don't know. This Nebraska team is just kind of like there, just like Minnesota is just there.
I think Nebraska's more than just there. I think Minnesota's just there. I 100% agree with Tom on that one. I also think, you know what? Screw it. Like Dylan Raiola is having to hear about his head coach getting a new job offer at State College, and you're going to follow him and go learn Amish. You know what? Screw it. Just go ahead and prove it that for the Cornhuskers. I'll go more.
I'm going to go more as well, but with very little confidence. I'll say he gets there, but I don't feel great about it. Kyron Lacey, anytime touchdown, half. Does he get the anytime touchdown against UGA?
Who?
Is it Kyron Lacey?
Oh, I don't think so.
No,
Keywan Lacey.
Keywan Lacey. I can't read.
I was like, I don't think that's gonna be Kyron Lacey.
Yeah, what are we doing here?
What are we doing here, TJ? What was it again? I'm sorry, I heard that. I was like, nope, we got it. Let's replay that one.
Half a touchdown. So anytime touchdown.
Yeah, I'll take the more. I think that Georgia does a good job. I mean, I think Ole Miss does a good job of starting off with a great game script early on to get in the end zone.
Same. More, please.
Yeah, we're kind of boring today, picking the same thing on almost all these, but I would think he gets in. The more is a little more juice than the less is. Joey Aguilar, 230. This is a big one. 235.5 passing yards in Bryant-Denny Stadium.
I go less. And the reason I go less is because I think you're going to look at them to run the football more early on, and then you're going to see Joey Aguilar have to start passing it later on in the game.
I'll just be a contrarian, just say more, but like it's going to be like 239 yards. Like it's really not going to be all that much. It'll be incremental.
I was going to be the contrarian, but since Tom did it, I'll go with what I actually think. I think it'll be less for the same reasons Cole did. I'll let Tom be wrong on that.
You just don't know how many like random moon balls he's going to throw and all of a sudden goes for 65 yards. It's like he has
120 yards in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Colby Young, wide receiver from Georgia, 39.5 receiving yards.
I'll go more. He's been really on point the last several games. I think that he's going to have another day where they could take their advantages against Ole Miss's secondary and win across the middle of the field.
I'll say more as well.
I'll go less just to be the contrarian. No rhyme or reason. Just
there you go.
Trying to help you two out. Trying to get you guys a win.
Thank you.
Last one. Ty Simpson. This is a big number. 288.5 passing yards against Tennessee.
Save me for this one. You two go first.
I'll go less just because the number's so big. I think he has a great day. I think it's less. But if Miller doesn't play, then yeah, maybe they do have to throw more. I'll say he goes less than 288.5 though.
Miller's availability does make it interesting. I'm going to say less. If the lesson to be learned from the Georgia game is anything, it's stay committed to the running game. And I think Alabama will be committed to that.
I want to be an asshole. The Theismann campaign is officially underway. Give me the more. Give me the more.
All right. Appreciate Sleeper. Go check them out again. Download if you haven't already. Here's a fun one. I actually just saw Pate tweet this, and I didn't watch the video because we're on here, but just tweeted how some of those classics between USC and Notre Dame back in the day are so beloved and maybe burned in his memory more than some national championship games. It's fun that this one feels like it means something because for a while it really hasn't. USC kind of been down in the dumps. It does kind of rekindle some old fun that we used to have with this back when I was in high school and college. Where are we starting here? Tom, you want to go first? USC, Notre Dame.
I was as surprised as anybody to see USC take care of business against Michigan. I think you guys know I was pretty bullish about Michigan taking that game last weekend, but USC showed a lot during that game. And honestly, like we knew what they were going to have in terms of the passing threat, and they delivered in a game where I really did think that Michigan was going to go on the road and be able to take that game. So I like what Jaden Mayava is doing, but CJ Carr is really, really rounding into shape right now for Notre Dame. They should be very, very encouraged by what they've been able to do. This game being in South Bend, I think it's a benefit. Notre Dame is, I don't know. I just feel like this is a game that right now, the way that Notre Dame's able to run the football consistently, granted, they've had their ups and downs this year on that front. That's something they're going to be able to take advantage of against a USC defense that has had their struggles. Granted, against Michigan, they did well in that department, but Michigan doesn't have the same capabilities in the passing game that Notre Dame is going to be able to present. It's much more one-dimensional than I think what Notre Dame is able to present. So I think Notre Dame has a strong chance to handle this game. Lincoln Riley, Marcus Freeman's name somehow got floated out there for the Penn State job. Literally, if you're breathing in college football, your name's been thrown out there for the Penn State job at this point. So I like Notre Dame in this one, but I think this is going to be extremely competitive. I do wonder if this turns into a shootout, however. Mayava versus Carr could be one of the more fun games of the weekend.
Before Cole goes, I would like to start to float Mike Norvell's name for the Penn State job.
No.
Somebody mute Tom real quick. I haven't seen that floated yet, and so I just like to. You could say I reported on it. It's fine if you're watching.
Thanks for that.
Cole, go ahead.
No, I think Tom brought up a good point about Jaden Mayava versus CJ Carr being a really big matchup. Here's the funny thing, though. You look at the numbers. This is supposed to be two defenses that allow far too many explosive plays, both ranked inside of the top. What is it? The 110th and 113th in pass defense this year. But then you got to remember that Notre Dame in their last 3 games have only given up 27 total points. And then you also have to remember, hey, it was against Boise State, it was against Arkansas, and it was against NC State. And NC State is probably the shocker of them, but everyone else, that feels pretty much on brand of what we expected. So that'll be interesting, is to see what version of Notre Dame secondary are we actually accustomed to. Is it the one that gave up 41 to Texas A&M, or is it the one that gave up 27 combined over the last 3 weeks and things have turned the corner? The matchup that's going to be really important in this game, I think, is the front 7 of D'Anson Lynn slowing down Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love. Because as much as I don't want to say this is a run-oriented offense, I think at the same time, when you have your opportunities to be able to trust your 2 running backs and take a little bit more pressure off of your quarterback, you do so 10 times out of 10. And there were moments in that matchup against Illinois where Illinois had to fight its way to come back to win, but they just truly trusted on their ground game to set the passing attack. And Luke Altmaier, credit where credit's due, he had a freaking day. I mean, he had over 325 total yards of offense. He was slicing and dicing and picking apart this secondary. But in my humble opinion, I think that when you trust the mobility and the ground attack, that gives you opportunities to set out the pass downfield. And there are weapons for Notre Dame in this matchup, whether it be Jaden Greathouse, whether it be Will Pauling, whether it be Fields, whether it be countless others. You can just go out the backfield if you want to go in that standpoint. I think on the flip side, there's also weapons for USC, for Jaden Mayava to be able to win with. Mekhi Lemon, arguably this best wide receiver that not enough people are talking about this year. And they should, because if he's like number 1 in almost every single receiving category in college football, he's been awesome. And he is going to be a future NFL Sunday starter. That's a guarantee. Jacoby Lane, he's going to be really impactful in this matchup. The question that I do have is, can you trust the ground game to set up the passing plays downfield for USC the way that I feel that way for Notre Dame? That's going to be it. But for Notre Dame, for USC, I think there's a lot of people out there that still are wondering, can this be a Trojans team that delivers the punch on the road? Because they got a signature win at home. And I felt very confident saying that USC was going to win last week at home. I was very much on the standpoint of, there's no way that they drop this game. They're going to find a way to win. If you find a way to win on the road, it answers a lot of questions about where you sit in the pecking order of teams that can make a maybe dark horse run to the college football playoff. And USC had its shot against Illinois. They fought back, they were down tremendously, and they worked it all the way to where they were in the lead. And then unfortunately, they lost it in the final seconds. So it's another opportunity for you to show what you're made of away from the Coliseum. It's another opportunity for you to show what your offensive identity can be. I just don't know if it's going to be enough right now. And even still, there's a part of me that wants to say this is going to be a 4-quarter game that comes down to special teams and comes down to one explosive run by Jadarian Price or Jeremiah Love to set up the big-time play. But, I mean, the game-winning field goal. But another part of me says this may end up being a blowout if you don't have the ability to run the football efficiently for USC. So I'm kind of on the fence on this game when it comes to which way. I think I know who I'm going to pick, but I could see this being a 4-quarter game. I could also see this be a blowout. Because remember, last time we saw these two meet up against each other, there was 14 points given, 2 pick sixes late in the 4th quarter, and USC kind of crumbled at the very last second. Are we going to see that again?
It's hard for me to imagine that Notre Dame is not the more desperate team in this, and not that USC doesn't want to win, but I do think that matters a lot. They can't lose this. If they lose this, I don't see how they make the playoff. Not that it would be great for USC to lose it either, but it's not a conference loss. You still theoretically can kind of play your way. And you also are playing what I think is the more talented team and you're on the road. So like when I think about all those things, it makes me lean very heavily toward Notre Dame in this. Not that I think they blow them out. I do think this will be competitive. I just think they'll make a few more plays. I think they'll play a little bit more desperate. And so I'd lean that way. I'm going to manifest this into existence. We're going to get a classic 31-30 Fighting Irish.
Give me 38-35 Irish. SC covers, but I think this is a must win to the points you just said for Notre Dame. SC has momentum, but I just think Notre Dame's a little bit more well-rounded at this point in the season.
I'll tell you why I want this to be a classic and be a fight to the finish, because it's the last time we're going to see the game for a while. Again, this is the very last time the rivalry is around, and screw everybody in college football from the Big Ten, from Notre Dame's standpoint, from boosters, from ratings, from everyone who decides to say, we need to take away this game. I hate all of you. I hate all of you equally. You all deserve absolute blame. With that being said, I'm going to trust my gut and say the better team ends up winning. I think the better team on paper and the better team of what I've seen with my eyes as of late is Notre Dame. And I will agree with TJ. I think it is a 31-30 final score. Game-winning field goal.
Let's go. Dude, I want to give me a classic in this one for sure. All right, let's go to this one. Michigan, USC's opponent last week. Do they bounce back against Washington? Tom, we can start with you again. Big Ten.
I think this being a home game will certainly benefit Michigan to that respect. Cole and I have been bullish about Washington from the offseason, and they have played well. Obviously, the game against Ohio State didn't go the way that they wanted, but that still ultimately was 24-6. So defensively, I was very impressed by the way they played in that game. And there's elements about what Ohio State is able to do offensively this year is that you're not going to see them hang 40 plus points on every last team. Julian Sayin is not putting up video game numbers. He's doing exactly what they've asked him to do, and they're winning games very methodically. So that Ohio State game I look at in a vacuum. Damon Williams has played as efficient football as any quarterback in the country. I'm not saying he's top 5, top 10 or any of that, but his completion percentage is extremely good. His ability to take care of the football is very, very good. They do a lot of things similar to kind of what UCLA has unlocked with Nico Iamaleava, and that he's going to be the primary rusher, and he's also going to be throwing the football a considerable amount. But they're keeping his pitch count to about 20 to 25 pass attempts per game. And even the game against Maryland, where it bowed up to 40 because they had to do so, they came out with that win, 24-20. I don't know if Michigan is going to be able to handle everything that Washington throws at them. And to the same points we've said all season long about Michigan, if you gain a 2-score advantage on this Michigan team and you force them to fight from behind in pressure moments on the clock, whether that's the end of the first half or just as the second half is dwindling away and Michigan has to throw the football and has to make up ground with potential explosive plays through the air, Michigan doesn't have that ability yet. Bryce Underwood gets incrementally better every single time out. I didn't think he was going to be in a situation head-to-head with Jade Maiava where he would win that shootout. I genuinely thought Michigan was going to be able to run the football a lot better than they did against USC. I think being at home, it's going to give them some advantages, and I think this is going to be closer. I think Michigan is able to gain an early advantage, but you just can't count out this Washington team when it comes to what Damon Williams and company are able to do in the run and in the pass. And I know we think the world of what they're able to do in the backfield. So I like Washington in this game on the road. I don't think this is a demoralized Michigan team by any means. I think they knew this season was going to be difficult. And oh, by the way, 8-4 is completely possible at this point in time. So this could be one of them. And this is one of the games, Cole, TJ, we talked about in the offseason. Washington's dangerous within the Big Ten. This is absolutely a coin flip game, in my opinion.
What does Washington have that almost every SEC team also has?
They're built a little differently.
No, they have a 5-1 record. What does Washington have that every SEC team has that they don't? They don't have a number next to their name. They were the most disrespected team this past week in the AP poll rankings, and they're playing with vengeance, and they're playing with a little bit of animosity. I mean, again, you have over 400 passing yards in a performance from your quarterback. And I also might throw this in. You have a 400-yard passing performance in front of his home crowd, and we still are shafting them. Their defense has been actually, in my opinion, the bigger story. I mean, they're number 7 in the country in run defense this year, and they're basically making teams have to beat them through the year. And they're a good second half adjustment team that's able to learn on the fly, pick up its P's and Q's, and understand this is what works, this is what doesn't. Damon Williams, the way he has played has been exceptional. And that to me was always going to be the deciding factor on why I slept on why I called Washington the biggest sleeper in the Big Ten this year, because you got a quarterback that can do a lot of things, including winning on third down. They're number 4 in college football in third down conversion rate. They live and they salivate at the opportunity to connect on third down. So this is something that when you look at what they're built to do, that may be an area of weakness for a team like Michigan. They come into this game 78th on third down opponent conversion rate. So that is a major step point that we're going to have to look at long-term and say, is this where Washington kind of takes things on over? Now, for Bryce Underwood's standpoint, you did find yourself a number 1 wide receiver, and you found yourself one that you're going to grow with because Andrew Marshall looked awesome on Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening. 8 catches, 138 yards, had that big 69-yard score, 17.3 yards per catch. He's kind of come on, and it's done a lot of good to now get the role to Donovan McCulley as the number 2. Can you see more of this growth? Can you see more of this this passing attack explode in front of your fans at the big house? And then on the flip side, can you continuously see Damon Williams win with his legs against a defense that, let's call a spade a spade, they still do a good job of winning against the run, even though in last week's game against USC, they gave up over 200 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 6.2 yards of play. A part of me wants to say that Michigan's going to win this football game. A part of me also realizes that I was very high on Washington going into the year. I thought that the upset would occur when it came against Ohio State. They're going to get somebody. And if they had a number attached to their name, maybe I would feel like that it'd be easier to pick Michigan. I think that they want to prove that they're the best unranked 6-1 team, even though if you read my polls, they're a top 17 team in the country, and they've earned that right.
I'm still impressed with their defense. As much as we talk about Williams and that offense, I think I understand home and away, but I think if you can hold Ohio State to 24, you can replicate that to some degree, even on the road in the big house. I will go 24-17 Washington with the win.
I will go 27-21 Washington with a win.
30-20 Washington with the win.
And now Michigan has won the football game. Now Michigan has won the football game.
This spread is really disrespectful to Washington. It really is.
Here we go, 8-4. All right, let's finish up with this one. Back to the SEC. There were so many games this weekend that we could have done, and Cole put them in the chat. He put like 15 games in the chat. Miami, Louisville on Friday night. We didn't touch on. We didn't talk about
Ole Miss, Georgia.
Ole Miss, Georgia, the Holy War. Some of those other ones are on the channel, so we tried to do some different stuff just to kind of see what would be going on. But man, there's a lot of really good stuff. So hopefully you guys enjoy your week. And shout out to my Liberty Flames last night for blowing a huge lead and then finding a way to win it with 30 seconds left. But we will finish up with Auburn and Missouri today. Hugh Freeze coaching for his job, Cole?
I think at this point, he may not get fired after Saturday's game, but I think that the writing is on the wall. If he doesn't win on Saturday, they may have a very hard conversation at the end of the year. We're changing ship. And that might just end up being the case. They may end up firing him for all we know. For Missouri, this is an opportunity for you to kind of gain back a lot of respect. There's people out there that look at you and say, well, who have you played up to this point in the season? Then you welcome in big, bad Alabama and you lose a football game. And then there's people who say, Alabama could have kicked your ass by more, but they had the self-inflicting wounds. We didn't find a way to actually get back in this game. Alabama handed us an opportunity, even though they were down by 10. Bo Pabula found Donovan O in the back of the end zone, and he made a 3-point game. And if not for 2 horrendous drives in the second half, we may be talking about Missouri starting off the season 6-0. I mean, like, if we're just being completely honest with how this team is. It's going to be interesting to see Bo Pabula, I think, have to win in this matchup, because the thing about Auburn is they're a top 15 run defense. They do a good job of shutting down running games and not making teams be able to trust their ground and pound attack. They want you to win through the air. And that is a weak point for Auburn secondary at times this season. You go back to the Baylor game, how bad it was. You go back to the matchup against Oklahoma. We could talk about the officiating being a big deal, but also you did allow several explosive plays. Talk about the Texas A&M game. The score does not indicate how many big-time shots downfield Marcel Reed was able to accomplish. It just was penalty after penalty after penalty. So they're going to force Bo Pabula to have to win through the air in this game. And I think that this is a game where Bo Pabula has got to get back to the elements of working on consistency. At one point after week 2, we were talking about him as a Heisman favorite because of his completion percentage, his tenacity, his ability to attack the intermediate part of the field, build that rapport with Brett Norfleet, build that rapport with Marquise Johnson, Kevin Coleman coming on in. And I think that that's more so what we're going to need to see, because if they're going to do a good job of understanding 29-20 are not beating us on the ground. On the flip side, in favor of Auburn, Auburn has got to be able to have a secondary punch after they uncload the clip. They got to have a second clip ready to go on in, because the thing that frustrated me so much about that Auburn game against Georgia, we could talk about the officiating being absolutely dreadful, and it was stupid. Careless penalties that did not need to be called, the touchdown that could have counted but didn't count because if you left it in the hands of the Zebras. But it felt like right after that play, Georgia exercised all of its inertia Auburn exercised all of its inertia to push itself into the end zone and be up 17-0. And when they didn't get that, it felt like they quit. They had 54 total yards of offense in the entire second half. They had multiple 3-and-out drives. They had 2 drives of negative yardage. And in one drive, on the death march from Georgia, we watched the Bulldogs finish with more total yards in the second half than Auburn did. In one drive. And Auburn was killing it in the first half. They were outgaining them on third down conversions. They had almost 160 more yards. Jackson Arnold was the better quarterback. So I got to know that you have a second clip loaded on in if things do not go your way. And you need to show fight in this game. I mean, Damari Alston has left the team. Hugh Freeze can say whatever he wants. People that I've spoken to is it was not on good terms because of the program side, not because of Damari Alston's side. That was a team captain that you guys voted for that could not stand to be a part of that program anymore. So you got to turn the tide on that one. You got to take out your explosive shots. Alabama, and if you go back and you listen to both Ryan Grubb and Ty Simpson earlier this week, they mentioned on multiple occasions, we should have taken more shots and had better success in the passing game downfield against Missouri. Because the matchup we actually should have been in favor for. You have as good, if not a better, wide receiver room in the Plains of Auburn than you do in Tuscaloosa right now. With Cam Coleman, with Perry Thompson, with Malcolm Simmons, with Eric Singleton, with what you got at the tight end position, you have got to create opportunities for yourself to where when you get those one-on-one battles, you got a quarterback that can take those shots and continuously push it down the field and win in that standpoint. And I think the most important thing is that neither side can rely heavily on the officiating. I don't care that it's Auburn. I don't care that it's at the Plains. I know Auburn has been, quote unquote, shafted by 2 games because of bad officiating. You cannot leave things in the hands of the Zebras. You can't. You've got to have conclusive evidence that that occurred. First down markers, touchdown over the goal line, little things like that go a very, very, very long way. And I think the team who is better executing on third down, doesn't be through the air, could be on the ground, whatever it is, that is the stat line that I'm going to be looking at the most. Whichever team is able to be more successful to convert is the team that will converge and get a victory on Saturday.
When I think about this game, I wonder how much Auburn has left to play for. And I know that sometimes being the desperate team is a big deal. We talked about that with Notre Dame and USC, but I don't know if it's desperation in the same way. Is it, man, we're halfway through the year and this just is going exactly like we thought it would the last couple. And I think about Missouri really wanting to prove that last week was a fluke. When you think about quarterback matchups, I know Auburn's got a good defense. When you think about quarterback matchups, I have a lot more faith in Bo than I do in Jackson. And so I think Missouri is a good team. I don't know that I would quite put them in the elite category, but I think they're a very good team. And at the end of the day, I don't think Auburn is. And so I think Auburn is probably in a lot of trouble. And yeah, it may not happen Sunday. It may happen Sunday. But this is probably the end of the beginning, or the beginning of the end. Maybe it's a better way to say it, for Hugh Freeze. I like Missouri in this one, and I'll let Tom talk, and then I'll think of a score.
I like the future head coach and quarterback of Penn State football. I'm kidding. No, I for all the reasons you guys pointed towards, I think these are 2 teams trending in opposite directions, despite what happened last weekend for Mizzou against Alabama. I just think Mizzou brings more to the table on this front in terms of what they're able to do defensively. I think Auburn's going to be able to get their points, but this is still going to be a competitive game. So the over-under right now is 43.5. Mizzou's favored by 1.5. I think you take the over in this one, honestly. Like, I don't think it turns into a full-blown shootout, but I could see a game that's kind of like 27-24, eerily similar to what Alabama-Mizzou was, but it goes in the favor of the Missouri Tigers, not the Auburn Tigers.
Bottom line is that I don't trust Hugh Freeze. I don't. Yeah. And I think that the culture that is currently set at that program is because of who you have as your head coach. And the thing that bothers me when it comes to Auburn fans right now who are saying, well, we got to get rid of Hugh Freeze. And then the other half are saying, but what happens if we lose the players? Folks, let me make something abundantly clear. This is an NIL player distribution revenue share platform. If you want to keep good players on your staff, hire good coaches that can convince them and then write them a check that makes them want to stay. But I can tell you right now, we constantly are seeing Auburn kill it in recruiting, and what are we noticing? None of those players are panning out and being developed properly enough to make it to the NFL. And ultimately, isn't that the end goal? Isn't that what we're supposed to see from Auburn? That eventually they have enough names to represent them on the Sunday game that people look at this place as a location to where we're going to be successful? And right now, you're not. So I just don't buy into Hugh Freeze. I buy into Eli Drinkwitz. They still have an opportunity to play for the college football playoff. I think one of the best bets of the week is Missouri with -1.5. I go Missouri actually pretty big in this game. It's not enough. I say still 30-21 final score. I'll be respectful because it is Jordan Hare. I think that Bo Pabula could be at least put in a position where things are slowed down. I just don't trust Auburn at all. So 30 to 21 final score.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar. I like Auburn's defense to be slightly better. 28-17. We're all three on the over. We're all three on Missouri winning this thing. Tom, did you pick Missouri too? I thought you did.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, which means a low-scoring Auburn win is coming right up. but I like that. I try to avoid same-game parlays because that's a tough thing to do. But I might do the over and -1.5, which again, terrible advice. Talk to a specialist if you're listening to any of my betting advice, but I really like the 1.5 and I really like the over on this. So Cole Thompson, Tom Hannifan, TJ Pittinger, as I mix up some names here. There are videos on the channel for some of the games we missed. So you're more than welcome to go check those out. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We'll be back again next week to recap what is an insane week of college football. So enjoy that. It's the best time of year. It's starting to get a little cool out wherever you live, I'm sure. So enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you guys soon.